This is sort of a review and sort of an unpaid endorsement about an app called Shutta. And as a skateboarder, I use it a lot. As the owner of a smartphone, in my case, I have an Apple 6S Plus. I use it a ton. But what I want to say is, like right now, I'm recording with a handheld camera, a Vixia HFM40 with a $30 lens, a fisheye lens on it. The time that I bought that camera, it was about 500 bucks, maybe 400. I forget. It's been a while. It's been my standby camera, and it's been a soldier. It's got 16 gigs built into it, so it's a little bit dated. But I've also got two 32 gig cards inserted into it as additional memory. Now, this is a GoPro Hero 4 Black, which cost, I forget how much I got. I bought it with a kit, and it was just really expensive at the time. I know that there's the GoPro 5 out now, and you're talking some serious bank for that. And right here is a very tiny camera, the Q-Lima SQ11, and it's very limited in what it can do, but it costs 10 bucks. Now, right here, I have a camera called a Tomtom Bandit 4K, and this camera would normally cost about $170 if you were to look it up. This is US money that I'm talking about. 170 bucks, and you have to buy a Class D micro SD card to save memory to it, the same kind of card that you'd use in a GoPro. So I got this camera for free, and the way that worked out was because I was using the app called Shutta, and in my case, I use an old iPhone 6S Plus, and I recorded myself olling over a bench, and I uploaded a still using the Shutta app and into a contest. They have these contests that go on regularly, and I was the recipient of this camera. And you've seen, if you've watched my channel for any time, or if you're brand new to my channel, I would say that 99% of the last two videos that I've uploaded to YouTube have been used solely with this camera. I might have had one or two clips that used one of the other cameras in here, but it's a really neat camera. One thing that I like about it, for one thing that I love about this camera that just I hate about GoPro is the app. There's an iPhone app for this camera, and when I'm out in the streets, there are a lot of times where I don't have internet connectivity, or there's no internet connection or anything like that, and I hate having to oftentimes log in to the GoPro app and use my data to just log in, just so I can log in to my camera, which is emitting a Wi-Fi signal. With the Tomtom, it also emits a Wi-Fi signal, but you don't have to go from wherever you're at to the internet to connect to the camera that you're staring at right in your face. And another thing that I like about it a lot is it uses something called a bat stick, and I'm sure that's their own little shop term for this functionality here. This is the camera. This is where your data is stored in the micro SD slot right here. And also, when you plug it in to your computer, it reads the card and it charges the lithium-ion battery that's built into this piece. And then when you're ready to go, you just snap it back in, and you can go and skate and record. And also, I gotta mention that this Tomtom comes with a GoPro adapter, because this unit here is unique to the Tomtom Bandit, the way it clips in to mount. And in my case, one of the main mounts that I use for this instead of a tripod, although I do use a tripod with this sometimes. This is like the automotive, like whenever you're watching like on some car channels how they have like cameras sticking out by the wheels or whatever, or the tires of the vehicle that's being test driven or whatever. This is one of those mounts that sticks onto your car and records it from the outside, or sticks on and records the driver himself. Well, with this, you clip it on, and alright. So this is actually the GoPro mount adapter that you see right here. And using this, so you're looking at this and you're like, well, it's crooked. That's bullshit. And it's not. Because what happens is this is actually counterbalances, so it stands up perfectly fine, and instead of getting a crooked image, you can actually twist the camera on side of the little frame that it has right here. It has 2 rings here, and those are static, and then the rest of the camera will go all the way around until it meets, you know, a bump in the road, so to speak. Okay, just to give you some specs on what we're dealing with, the most used setting that I use with my GoPro Hero 4 is the 120 frames per second at 1080p, or sometimes I'll use the 30 frames a second at 1080p, but I'll use the 120 frames per second if what I'm doing, I want to bring it down to slow-mo. So usually I just leave it in that mode anyway, because even if I don't want to slow-mo the video, then it looks exactly the same, especially with web usage, and you gotta forgive me, I'm out in the city. Now, an iPhone 6s Plus, which is now, it's aged and dated, because, you know, since I bought this, the iPhone 7 and 7s Plus has come out, and now the 8s are dropping, and the iPhone 10, which is all glass, which is stupid. It's taking pre-orders. Imagine getting a glass spider web on the back of your phone. That's just scary to me. But anyway, when recording in slow-mo mode on this phone, which is really the same thing as a high frame rate, it'll record at 240 frames per second at 720p. So there's a slight reduction in the frame size, but a higher frame rate. And I bring that up because when using the Shutta app, you want to try to, for the best results, you want to record at a high frame rate. Now the Tomtom Bandit will record at 120 frames per second at 720p, or you can record at 60 frames a second at 1080. And so just generally speaking, your average video camera records at 30 frames a second. So this camera at full resolution will record twice as fast, so that gives you double the frame rate. That means you can slow your footage down by 50% and it'll give you a smooth slow-mo, as opposed to like 240 frames a second at 720p, where you can slow it down even more incrementally, but you also have to bump your footage up by 50% to make it fill the 1080 size. Or you can upload it in its native to 720, I'm sorry. So all of these cameras record at 720 and 1080p. And if you've probably heard that term and not really knew what the P stood for, you've seen 1080i and 1080p. And what that means is 1080p, it means progressive scan. So essentially what you're getting is, if you're shooting at 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second or beyond that, you're getting a progressive scan. P stands for progressive scan. And so in 1 second, you're going to get, if you're shooting at 30 frames a second, in 1 second, you'll get 30 full frames, 30 photos essentially of the object or action that you're trying to document. And so if you're able to bump that up to, like, 60 frames per second, when you grab a still from it, you have more to choose from, because you've got a faster shutter speed, you've got more data getting processed by the machine. And so when you have essentially a higher frame rate that you're recording at, then whenever you grab a still from it, you'll be able to get like a cleaner still without as much blur, and the gaps between action, if you're recording something that does have a lot of action going on to it, when you're in super slow-mo, let's say for example, if you bring in 30 frames a second and you were to get it super slow mode into whatever software that you like to use, eventually that slow motion is going to become really, really choppy, because there are gaps in between each frame. And I can go on to a rant about infinity, not just in the big way, but in the small way. What I mean to say is between the number 1 and the number 2, you have 1.2. Then there's 1.20, 1.200, 1.2000 into infinity, and then you can go to 3. But anyway, what it means is if I'm shooting at 240p on my iPhone, then essentially I have 240 frames in that 1 second, and that's about how long a skate trick really lasts, from popping to being in the air and to landing, where you might maybe 1 or 2 seconds, let's say. Well, in somewhere in that point, there's going to be the peak of the trick, the part of the trick that you really want to document and that you want to pull that still from, like an expert photographer would do with a regular still cam. Now 1080i, which really isn't necessary to know about in regards to any of this, but it's something that I might as well throw in. 1080i means 1080 interlaced, and what that means, and then this is really something that you deal with if you're an old VX, a Sony VX head, or someone that's recorded a lot with mini DV. Well, 1080i interlaced footage basically means you're getting part of the previous frame, part of a current frame, and possibly part of the next frame. And if you look at a still or a screen grab from a recording that was done in a 720 or 1080 or even just standard definition that's interlaced, you're going to notice a bunch of horizontal lines, and those lines are because you're getting a feed that's coming from the frame that came previous to it, and it's merging into the frame that it's on, and then that frame is going to merge on over into the next frame. They all connect like that, but we don't notice that typically because everything's in motion, and there are a lot of things that are static, that aren't moving. And so with those things that are static, they're going to look exactly the same, but when you have something that's in motion, our brain plays a trick on us, and we don't see each of those individual frames. We don't see the lines per se, unless of course it's low resolution, or we're watching it full screen on a resolution that the video was never really meant to handle. So if you're watching like a VHS tape on a high def television, you're probably going to see the kind of crappy look that it has. And so that's where we get interlaced. In fact, if you've ever pulled an image from an interlaced piece of footage and you want to grab a still image, you bring it into like Adobe Premiere and you take a snapshot of it and save that, like export that as a TIFF or a JPEG. You're going to see those lines, and that's why in Photoshop, if you ever use Photoshop, you're going to see, I think maybe it's under tools or filters, I forget, you're going to see a tool there that's kind of ancient now and kind of unnecessary these days, but it's the de-interlace tool. And what it does is it'll take out every odd or even field that's coming in from the previous frame and merge that together so that you get the actual frame that you want from it. But that really has nothing to do with anything, just trying to edify you a little bit. Okay, so here's where we're gonna get to talking about Shutta, and I'm gonna show you how to use it. So right now, we're going to open up Shutta. When you first install Shutta, you're gonna notice that it looks a little bit different than most apps that you've played around with. As you see right now, featured missions, has a skateboarder on it. It's urban sports. And with urban sports, they are really wanting to get some skateboarders up in this. And if you're somebody that has a filmer, or you like to do a lot of self-filming, like I do a ton of self-filming, I guess because I'm a little bit self-conscious. Well, well, that and I've been kind of taking a different route with some of the videos that I've been uploading, and there's actually more information about that and a full explanation, because I had an opportunity to do an interview with Shutta, and I'll have a link to that interview below this video. So anyway, right now, as of this video, the recording of this video, you have 2 weeks to get some footage and then make a still, enter this mission, and you can win a Tomtom Bandit just like the one that I showed you. Now, we're going to go back a little bit here. I'm going to go over into, I'm sorry, when I swiped over this way, I went into camera mode, and it's that diamond that actually lets you control the app. So you can record from here. I tend to prefer recording in slow-mo mode on my iPhone, or I'll record at 60 frames per second on my Tomtom. I don't think I've actually put anything up here using my GoPro. Once I got the Tomtom, I kind of slacked on using the GoPro a lot. Now, if we go down here, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I've been using this app for about a year, maybe a little bit over a year now. This is a still of a crooked grind that was part of a video I recorded last week that I completely screwed up some audio and some footage of. This is from one of the last videos I put up on YouTube, if not the very, I think this is actually the ender from the last video I put up on YouTube. And you can just kind of scroll down and see that there's just a bunch of stuff that I've done here. So I'm gonna go back up to my home screen. We're back into the main screen. And as you can see, whenever you mess up, if you're trying to go somewhere where you're not supposed to, you can kind of see these diamonds are ghosted out. They're telling you, don't go that way. Go this way. Then go this way. Go this way. No, go that way. So it's pretty intuitive. Once you get used to it, it's actually really handy. And there's not a menu system that you necessarily have to click for. But I'm going to go ahead and try to see if we can get a couple of tricks. I'm going to record the tricks using both my Tomtom, and I'm going to record some videos using this iPhone. And we're going to show you exactly how to enter one of these missions. I'm going to enter the this featured mission for urban sports, and hopefully you will too, because I know a lot of you rip way harder than I do, and you can get some pretty banging stuff. And also, of note, there are no ads in this application. These are past missions here, and the mission that I actually won on was this one here. It was called Freeze, and with Freeze they were just kind of looking for something that just was frozen in time, and so I felt obliged to go ahead and enter that mission. So another thing that I was going to mention is that whenever you become a member here, you're going to wind up with some followers. So like right now I've got like 223 followers, and I'm following 106, and I need to go back and follow some more people. I've been trying to find more skateboarders, and there just aren't a ton of skateboarders using it. Not as many as I would have expected, considering what the app does. And whoops, I said something that rhymed with "Hey Siri," but see, anyway, so you'll get comments that like appear sort of like almost like Twitter style, and then we'll close that out. But another thing too is whenever you save a photo using Shutta, it will also save a photo, the same photo at the full resolution, into your camera's library. And so you can take that and you can put that on Instagram, that perfect shot. You can put it on your Facebook. Doesn't matter, it's your photo. You can do whatever you want with it. But another cool thing about this is that Shutta will possibly put it on their Instagram and also their Facebook as well as their Twitter. And I know that their Instagram has got just a ton of followers, just tens of thousands of followers, and they also have a whole bunch of Facebook users. I know, like, the last thing that I uploaded to Facebook, I'm sorry, that they uploaded to Facebook, it was getting like 8,000 something likes, which was ridiculous. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pop open the camera on here. I'm gonna use slow-mo, and at 240 frames a second, it's 720p. I think the iPhone 7S or the 7S Plus, I don't know for sure. I think that it'll record at 240 frames per second at a full 1080p, which is even better. So that's awesome. And yeah, so we're gonna go through this, and we're going to learn how to use the app and have some fun with it. All right, see you in a second. Okay, so we're looking at some of the same stuff we were looking at before. This is the GoPro mount for an automobile with the Tomtom Bandit, and this is my phone. This is a very janky put together tripod that I use for my iPhone. This is sort of stretchy, whatnot, so it'll fit sort of, but this is kind of seeing the end of its life. I need to get a replacement. But what I was going to say is I do have a wide angle, and I also have a fisheye lens that I can use for the iPhone. But the problem is you got to take the iPhone out of its case, and usually when you're shooting with a fisheye or a wide angle, you want to get really close to it. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't afford to break this phone. This is my bread and butter right here, and so I tend to just shoot more long lens, so you're probably going to see the Tomtom Bandit in the background. Now, apologies for the glare here, it's a sunny day. When referencing the fisheye for an iPhone, the reason that I do that is because with a Tomtom Bandit cam, you don't really need a fisheye, it would be redundant. Now, this camera is sitting about 2 feet away from my skateboard back there. And if I flip this into landscape, you can see that that's a pretty good field of view. But if I change the angle of view from normal to wide, it immediately becomes even bigger. And there might be a little bit more distortion. You can probably see in the background things are a little bit more distorted, but I don't think the distortion is that bad. It's not as bad as like the fisheye lens that I'm using on my handheld camera. Also, when you're in this mode, I'm not going to go into all of the modes that this camera has, and yes, this camera does have a GPS. I have no use for a GPS myself, but it has it if I ever need it. But here, with the size and frame rate, this is where you can start playing around with your different settings. Now, it has 4K, but only at 15 frames a second. That's not really going to be usable for the kind of stuff that we do, but it does have 2.7K at 30 frames a second, which can come in handy. And I'm going to go into how that can be handy in a later video when I'm just talking about video and about framing shots and doing things like that, because I really think I've been meaning to do this for quite some time. But there are some tricks to if you're someone that doesn't have a filmer, you're just somebody that grabs a camera like I do and goes out and records stuff, then there are some things that you might be really interested in, and maybe some tricks. I know when it comes to angles, when it comes to framing your shot, there's just a lot that you might find helpful, and we'll go into that later. Okay, when it comes to using this thing, like I said, it does emit a Wi-Fi signal. You're gonna use this button back here to power it on. You're gonna see it has a little logo on. I hope you guys can see that. And we're in video mode, 1080, 60 frames per second. Good. That's my SD card. This is definitely not the right time. I need to set that, but maybe I don't care. Now, here's where you get the Wi-Fi stuff. You go up. You tap up on this square, and it's gonna give you its Wi-Fi information, and then in turn, whether, I don't know how you do it on Android. I've never used an Android in my life. I have nothing against them. Well, I'm already connected because it's a connection that I've already got kind of saved into my networks. Now it says no internet connection. That's fine. All you want to be is connected to the Bandit. Now, now that I'm connected to the Bandit, I should be able to go into my creative and use the Tomtom Bandit app. Tap the icon, it's searching, and boom, it's looking at us doing this. So we've gone meta. It's like a selfie. Got 3 cameras running right now. That's ridiculous. It's just too damn many cameras. Anyway, here we go. Vape life. Anyway, I think it was like 15 minutes ago I was talking about how sunny it was, and now it looks like a storm's coming. I don't know what to do. Gonna try to find a spot. So anyway, the last attempt was a no-go. Got rained out as soon as I was gonna do that thingy way over there. And I'm under a canopy, and there's a sprinkler here that actually caught me underneath a canopy. Why is there a canopy and a sprinkler? I don't care. Okay, so that was a washout. Like, it's just covering the campus that I'm at, and my board is just shiny. It's so wet. It is drenched, and fortunately I have a spare, and I got some extra shirts. I think Marilyn might help if we can find somewhere else to go. That sucked, but the town next to my city of Hammond, Ponchatoula, is dry so far, but it looks like the storm's creeping this way, and gonna try to just, I don't know, do some more thingies. Okay, so for the purposes of this video, I think I'm gonna go with the kickflip that you just saw. I'm famous for my notoriously ugly, mobbed out kickflips, but I'm okay with that because we all do our thing. Anyway, now we're gonna import it into Shutta. Get these things out of the way. Alright, opening up Shutta. Okay, I am gonna go ahead and just, since this is really all about entering a mission, we're gonna go ahead and enter one of the missions. And I've tapped through it. Submit your Shutta right there. Alright, now over here you're gonna see that double box right there. I'm gonna tap that. That's gonna bring me to my library, and up here is the last trick that I had recorded. Okay, so show me a preview of the video that I'm wanting to use. I'm gonna choose it. Now I'm gonna scroll over here, and this is really where the magic happens. Now you can scrub through the timeline using the the default camera inside of your iPhone, and I assume your Android device, but I really like the way they have it here. When you press this button, whoops, I did not mean to do that. Let me go back. I was thinking if I pressed it again it would minimize, but I forgot that's actually when you want to take your snapshot. So what I'm going to do is I am going to scroll right here until I find the moment that I like. And like I said, I have an ugly kickflip. No one needs to remind me of this, but I'm okay with that. And what do I want? Well, anyway, this is the cool thing. You can just keep going back and forth, just slightly nudging it. And I'm gonna go with this right here. I think right there is fine. It's fine for me, for the purposes of this video. Perfect. Boom. Now, I've saved it. And if you want, you can choose filters just like, I don't know, every app has filters these days. And I'm not gonna use a filter, so no filter post. Now, right here, it says mission. Now you can actually go through the whole process of finding the frame that you like and then go to the mission, or like we did, we go to the mission first and then submit that way. And so I'm gonna add a caption, and in this caption I'm just gonna say this is an example mission entry for a can't type YouTube video about not shoulda, Shutta. And hashtags do work here, so you'll see skateboarding, boom, done, up there, and right here it says post, and we're gonna post. And also, as you can see, you know, you have your Facebook and the more stuff, and that's really to share to other locations. I hereby confirm that the photo doesn't infringe, is a valid model. If there's a model, there's no model, it's just me, and I'll never be a model. And yeah, basically it's just very basic terms of service. Just, if it's you skateboarding, then you're good. Next. Magical. Now we're taking a little while because I am not around any kind of network. Alright, there we go. And I've just entered a submission into Shutta with this mobbed out kickflip, but as you saw, it was land. And if we were to go into my camera roll, we're going to see that it saved a copy of the image to my camera roll, which is really handy. And from there I can share it on Twitter, I can share it on Facebook, and I can share it with mom and my aunt and my wife and everybody, especially Bandit. Bandit will love it. But yeah, that's how it works. And from here, just by doing this, by skateboarding as normal, and this was actually a longer day than it was supposed to be, so skateboarding like you normally would, you get a screen grab using this app, which I think that the UI and the UX, so that's user interface and user experience, I think that it works a little bit better for me personally than does the default iPhone video camera app. And also, just by doing something like this, something really simple, a skateboard trick, and recording it with your phone, or recording it with a camera that syncs up with your phone that you can import footage from, you have the chance to win free stuff. Now, in this case, the mission is urban sports, but that doesn't mean this is the only mission, because they have a lot of missions that are so open-ended that skateboarding really fits into a lot of those. Now, sometimes they have water sport specific type missions, but in this case, and in a lot of other cases, kind of like the one I won my camera on, right there, yeah, it was just really a pretty cool deal. Free app. It serves its purpose, it does a good job of it, and then on top of that, hell, $170 camera in the mail for free. So really, I guess the main thing is to get your framing right, make sure that you get everything that you want in that image. You're basically, if you're doing it by yourself, you're recording video the same way you would take a photograph. If that makes sense. That should make sense, because you're extracting a photo from your video. And if you have a filmer, just, you know, hopefully your filmer knows how to keep everything in frame, and that's what you want. You want to have I probably could have tightened that shot up a little bit and made it a little bit better. I could have redone the kickflip, but not going to. I'm not actually attempting to win this particular mission. I would like someone else to enter as a skateboarder and win some stuff. And yeah, that's really it. So the Tomtom footage that is running with this video is just to show you the quality of the video that we got, and then the iPhone footage is just to show you exactly what I was recording with the iPhone. And one thing to remember is when you're recording at a high frame rate, especially you'll notice with the iPhone footage, it's going to tend to be a little bit darker depending on the lighting conditions. But when you're recording with a high frame rate, and the higher the frame rate, the more you want better lighting conditions. And the reason is because that shutter is closing so much that it's limiting the amount of light that can get to the sensor. And so when there's a limited amount of light getting to the sensor, obviously the image in the video is going to be significantly darker. But that's really it. So if you are so inclined, download the Shutta app for your Android or your iPhone device. Play around with it. I seriously, like, give it, if you're a regular skateboarder, if you're hitting it every day, I'd say give it about 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks and record some stuff, take some stills from it, share them on Instagram, along with your video stuff too. And I think you'll get hooked. So like I said, I've been using it for a year, and I still use it. In fact, I just used it. Anyway, one final note is want to give love out to everybody that was affected by the hurricanes in Texas, in the Florida area, Puerto Rico, and all of the islands south of us. Being a Louisianian, I know the devastation of hurricanes firsthand, and they're heartbreaking. So if you can donate money to a good charity, I'm not going to tell you what charity to donate to, but investigate and look into some organizations that you might be able to contribute money to, and let's just try to support our fellow human beings. And that's really it. Next video is probably just going to be some random footage or whatever. What I normally do is go out, record some clips, put them on Instagram. I get a stack of Instagram clips, compile those along with other footage that I haven't compiled, and then I throw it on YouTube. And if you read the interview that I did with Shutta, my main thing lately has just been focusing on really the art of filming, and not so much, you know, trying to skate like you know, a hammerman or anything like that. But I've never really skated like that. But really just been kind of focusing more on the art of just color and composition of everything, and doing it myself. And again, sometimes I get a little bit self-conscious if I'm recording with somebody, and also I don't have like that dude I can call up and say, look, let's film right now, right? That's just I don't know, that's not really my scene. And also, you know, I like going on these little solo sessions unless I'm at the park. But when I'm out on the street, I tend to do my little solo session thing. I'm a kook. That's it. So anyway, skate hard, roll forever, and thank you again for watching this video. And if you've made it this long, then I probably owe you something. I have no idea what that would be.